had a hint that Trump might come in. And we also did the Scottish independence. So we do, some destinations in the UK.
So it's not just around the world. You do local tours.
Do stuff in the UK as well. Yeah, we've looked at the city in the financial crisis, and we've looked at Brexit as well. So we'll definitely be doing issues back here, and a lot of we do get bespoke requests, people asking for private tours, whether it's looking at Westminster, Brexit. We've had all sorts of obscure things actually.
So it's not just the tours you publicise for the year. You have people come and asking, "Can you do this for us?" And you put that together too.
About 1/3 of our business is tailor-made tours, and often for a private individual or a couple.
Or sometimes even a family, with sort of older kids looking at specific issues of something that they're studying and want to know more about. Or they combine it with normal sightseeing in a place and then want to have a couple of days of looking in depth into some issue and do a 3-day political tour with us, tacking it on to another holiday.
So there's not a minimum amount of people you want for these special tours, then as whoever's willing to pay the money to put it together.
For a tailor-made tour, if you want what you say what you want, and we'll go and research it for you and set it up for you, and there's obviously a price that goes with that. With the group tours, we do have to have a minimum number of people, otherwise you're making a loss. So they have to be it depends on the tour, 5, sometimes a minimum, normally about 7 or 8.
But we also have very small group tours, because we see some other group tours advertise, they're only taking small groups, and then we read up to 25 people, whereas our sort of maximum size is about 12, or at a push 14, but never more than that, and frequently less.
And that is a real contrast, because when we do see that term small group tours, we think, well, that's huge compared to us.
You can follow me on Twitter @holiday_hut. I go on and on this show about getting correct travel insurance, making sure you're covered, checking the small print, because you can go for the cheapest insurance and you think you're covered, and you find out when you've had an accident that you're not covered for what you've done. Like you've had a couple of sherbets and you've tripped and twisted your ankle, then you're probably not covered. So in a few moments we're going to find out about the insurance, because of where some of the destinations that the political tours take their clients. Your travel insurance might not cover you. And we'll be talking about visas as well. But before that, I wanted to know if the company's had a problem, because they don't do the flights, they do the ground arrangements. If they've had a client that's booked the flights, but then the tours had to be pulled because there wasn't enough people going on it. And what happened if that happened, and then the customers are stuck with some flights. So that's what we're going to be starting with, and then we'll be moving on to insurance and visas.
We do ask people to insure their tours, and we also only confirm a tour 2 months before departure. So we tell people, look, if you want to book your flights, go ahead, but please have insurance in case it is cancelled, and we will confirm a tour, let you know if it's going to go ahead at 2 months. So at the 2 months point, we will tell people, right, it's going to happen. At that point, we'll know. So we haven't had that issue, and if people want to book earlier, they have to take some risk, but we advise them to take insurance.
So you're not atoll based because you don't do the
We don't do flights, yeah.
But do you offer any protection at all to the clients?
We do. We have something called IPP, so the International Passenger Protection, and that means that if you're booking, if we go bankrupt, you're protected.
I use a trust account that's similar, where I couldn't handle the customer's money until they came back. So when I was a travel agent, I had to front up everything if it was awkward, difficult. Yeah. And I only got the money back once everybody come back. So that's how I kept the money. But insurance is much better for the cash flow than paying for everybody else's holiday. Sticking with insurance, you don't just do slightly unusual places. You said you already do normal tourist destinations. Do you need specialist travel insurance, or can the free insurance you get with your bank account do the job?
We require that people have insurance for all the places we go to. So I wouldn't say that their bank account is sufficient. We want people to check that when they're going to, whether it's France or Lebanon, that they have insurance for that specific place. We also advise people when our tour goes to places where there's against all but essential FCO travel advice, and there are destinations that we go to where that's covered. So Lebanon has that. Kosovo had that. We've done Kosovo before. By and large, most places we go to don't. Iran, many travel companies were going to Iran when the whole of Iran was designated as an all but essential travel place. And there are a few companies that you can go to with Lloyd's of London to get insurance for that. And we do know of a company that can do that, but we don't make any direct recommendation ourselves. So it's up to the passenger to actually get that insurance for themselves, and it's very important they have it.
It's also that our passengers are international, so people in Australia and America need different insurance to those in the UK. But generally we've never had somebody that can't get insurance for where we're going to, whether it's FCO restricted or not. We've never had a problem with them not getting insurance, and everyone's travelled with insurance. For me, sometimes it's quite strange because going to North Korea, the British Post Office insurance covers that, which I find quite amusing.
Try getting insurance when I was working at an animal sanctuary, and I had to be covered in case a lion attacked me, and I could be repatriated. And my bank account insurance said, "Yeah, you're covered." I said, "You sure?" Yeah. Just check for us. No, you're not. So then I had to find somewhere, and it wasn't that expensive in the end. It was only 150 quid for two of us. I thought it was reasonable for the risk we were taking. So specialist insurance isn't expensive.
No.
But it is imperative that the customer checks, and we can't go through their insurance policy for them. So we have to be reliant on them saying to us, "I am insured to go. This policy does cover it." And if you're a UK citizen, we know of a company that can cover you for all these areas and risks. And so if you want to, you can buy that policy. But we can't go through your policy, the tooth comb. You have to check to see that you are covered.
Is it the same with visas? Because you have international people, they have different requirements. South Africans have to use a lot of visas for certain destinations. A friend of mine booked Bermuda or Bahamas to propose to his girlfriend. South Africa, no visa. A couple of weeks before he went, visa was required. So do you leave that to the clients as well?
We help them with the visa process. With Iran, everyone needs visas, by and large. And there's a process that we will advise you and we'll help you with the application form. But you're responsible at the end for applying for the visa. It varies from place to place. So North Korea is a group visa, and we take that. No, the customer doesn't have to do anything about that. They just have to give us their details. But by and large, the customer, if they need a visa, has to go for itself. We'll advise them how they do it, but they must apply.
Yeah, also they're applying normally in their country where they're living. And you're quite right, the South African passport, you need a visa practically for everywhere. But often I'm the only one on the tour that needs a visa. Generally, the Brits and Americans don't need many visas, and Australians and New Zealanders need a couple of more than they do. But our destinations this year, Russia, most people need a visa.
Yeah. So I'm just running through for most people, we've done Lebanon, Iran, France, Russia, the Baltics, Israel and Palestine, North Korea, Colombia and South Africa. That's the list of this year's group tours. And the only place that the majority of our customers need a visa for are Iran and Russia. And we help secure the Iranian visa, and we'll give you advice on the Russian visa.
A lot of those countries you need visas, but you can get them at the airport on arrival.
You just land.
And a lot of them are free.
Yeah.
Like Lebanon was free.
Yeah.
If you're going abroad by plane, boat, or the family car. If you're going abroad for pleasure or business. There's one essential thing to do before you go. Check the expiry date on your European Health Insurance card. You can renew it up to 6 months before it expires. Visit nhs.uk/healthcareabroad or call 0845 606 2030. Bon voyage!
You can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. We'll be getting back to political tours in a moment. But as I mentioned last week and probably the week before, I'm investigating pollution at airports. Specifically the fumes coming out of the jet engines, whether it's causing people health problems, whether it's dangerous, whether we're being told the right figures, whether the figures have been measured correctly or in such a way to make it look like everything's okay. So if you know anybody who's an expert in avionics and jet engines, or if you know somebody who lives near a major airport and they have health problems, or maybe you know somebody who can say there's nothing wrong with living near an airport, it's perfectly safe. Or maybe you've found an article I've not seen yet and it solves all the problems I'm looking for, whether they're there or not. Please do let me know. Facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Shows, the Facebook page for the show. You can contact me with that, or on Twitter, which is @holiday_hut. And maybe I'll have a airport special in a couple of weeks. But back to political tours. We're talking about how this company helps you to really understand what's happening at a country, at a local level, as well as internationally. So I wondered I was wondering about two things really. One, whether there was a tour which is always oversubscribed and you had to really book up early if you wanted to be on it. And the second one was children. Is it something that children could enjoy, or is it an adult-only holiday?
They go in waves. So Israel and Palestine has had a huge number of customers. We were inundated with customers for the US elections. Obviously, that only comes around once every 4 years. Iran's been very popular. I think that's we'd have to look at our board.
No, I think South Africa was popular, and that's an example of a tour that we've brought back. We haven't had it for a couple of years, and now we've brought it back at the end of this year, where it's a lovely time to travel, nice and warm. That's been very popular this year. Whereas a couple of years ago we sort of stopped it because there seemed to be waning interest.
Again, the customers who wanted to go had already been.
Yeah. You said you do bespoke tours for families and whatever earlier, but for the ones you've publicised are in your brochure, are they adults only, or is there can children go?
We've had children as young as 11, I think, maybe.
Yeah, but that's been on a bespoke tour.
On bespoke tours, yeah. I mean, the bespoke tours will cater it, will adapt the tour so it does fit whatever age group. Generally, I think we've had 17 and 18-year-olds go travel with the family, and that's fine. I mean, we're looking at politics and some tricky issues, recent history, and so there has to be. I think you have to be able to cope with some of that, and it's not pitched at children. It's you're looking at what's happened recently, whether it's talking about Donald Trump, who's not necessarily child friendly, or looking at what's happened in recent history in somewhere like South Africa. There might be some tricky issues to look at.
Do you need a lot of background information to be able to make the most of your tours, or could you just survive if you just read The Sun or The Mirror?
I think if you read The Sun or The Mirror, you might struggle. But we give people reading lists. I think you'd struggle if you'd just read The Telegraph. But we give people background reading, and some people don't do the reading before a tour. But it's the guides. The experts. So we have Angus Roxburgh, the BBC correspondent, he was the Moscow correspondent and the Europe correspondent for the BBC. He does Russia, so he knows how to take somebody from who knows very little and introduce the subject in a way that they can understand it, and that's true for all our experts. So you could know very little and be okay.
And in a way, our tours are unique because the interaction with the experts is not just at set lectures. The experts are with you day in and day out. You're having breakfast with them, you're spending the day with them, they're at the meal in the evening. We have hours in the day where they're sort of summing up the meetings that we've been to and putting everything in perspective and helping you build the story of this sort of documentary that you're now in the midst of exploring and travelling. And that helps a lot.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think there's a real... You're learning as you go, and you can ask questions, and in the evenings we sit down over dinner, and there'll be great debates, and there's always that expert on hand. I didn't understand what that guy said, and what questions could we ask the next bloke, or why does this woman say this? And you talk about it, and they'll lead you through everything. So it's not like you just sort of sit there and sort of expected to know everything. It doesn't matter. You just ask as many questions as you like, and you'll learn.
A holiday and you've got homework, haven't you?
Yeah.
You send your check off and a list of homework comes your way.